Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 550. I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward and Self Publishing Live, joined by Leslye Penelope, a fantasy and romance author, a world building teacher extraordinaire at myimaginaryfriends.net, which is her podcast. Leslye, you're back. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back. Thanks, Brian. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm happy you're here. I'm doing well. I forgot to even mention, because last week was in the midst of self-publishing live. By now, we've done our, unless something crazy happened, self-publishing live in Chapel Hill. And then we'll do the virtual event next week. There's still virtual tickets at selfpublishinglive.com, so go check that out. Leslye, so in that event, it was all pretty much about mindset and goals, and I'm thinking about happiness. You know, your business has changed over time. You're hybrid now. You have kind of changed what you spend time on. How do you feel you've changed your business in a way that makes you happier over the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think focusing, where we focus our energy says so much. And so kind of when you're starting out, you're trying to get a foothold, everything seems to be climbing uphill. And yeah, next year is my 10-year anniversary of publishing. So at this point, it's really about the long term. Like, how can I do this for a long time? How can I make sure that I'm putting things in place in my business so that it's sustainable, not only financially, but emotionally, creatively? I think so many of us have been through burnout from trying to reach our goals and our milestones. And, trying to reach goals is great, but like taking care of yourself and taking care of your muse, as it were, is also really important. And I want to be writing for a long time. So I have been focusing on slowing down a little bit, taking a lot of care with the stories that I'm telling, trying to think about the business practices that I want and not do the stuff I don't want to do, especially when it's not effective. And a lot of the things that I don't want to do are not going to be effective anyway, because I don't enjoy them. And yeah, like I said last week, kind of running your own race. And part of that is doing the things that can move the needle, but also bring you joy and are fulfilling and are sustainable for you. Because if you, like, I tried to do TikTok and that's just not a thing for me. It's not a thing that I can sustain and also write and do all the other things in my life that I want to do. So I had to set that aside, and I'm focusing more on like in-person events and meeting readers at reader events and signings and things like that. And maybe it's not as many people, but there's a higher quality of the interaction. And even though I'm introverted, I do love meeting readers and talking with people in person. And so that's an example of a way I've shifted my business into something that actually brings me joy and that I feel like it's still meeting my goals.
Yeah, you bring up some great points here. I mean, obviously, when it comes to profit, something that's scalable is important, but joy is not always scalable in that way.
Yeah.
You need to focus on what is going to make you feel happier in your business. If you aren't happy with a certain thing you have to do all the time, like for you, it was TikTok, you weren't happy with, then you aren't going to get good at it. You aren't going to make a good progress with it, because if something is bringing you down, it's hard to bring it up.
Exactly. And then it's hard to write and be creative when you're kind of down. So all of it feeds into each other. We're people, we're artists, we're writers, we're business people, and we have to attend to all parts of ourselves, I think.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, definitely go check out Leslye's great resources for authors at myimaginaryfriends.net/resources. Let's get into the top story of the week, shall we?
Yeah.
Are you a person? Amazon's KDP platform recently announced a change to their KDP program that seems to be aimed at making sure authors are who they say they are, says Kelly McDaniel of Written Word Media. Starting immediately, authors may be required to submit a photo ID in order to prove their identities. Quote, according to Amazon, this move is part of Amazon KDP's effort to maintain a secure and trustworthy publishing environment, reports McDaniel. The new verification process is designed to protect the platform from fraud and abuse, end quote. Currently, only some authors and publishers are required to complete identity verification. This requirement will gradually expand to include more authors. Amazon's announcement page shows that acceptable IDs for the United States include passport, driver's license, permanent resident card, work permit, or visa, with the Amazon Help article listing requirements for other countries. According to Amazon, quote, identity verification will reduce abuse by bad actors, which will have a positive impact on customers' book buying experience, end quote. Some authors have expressed concerns about privacy, security, and the ability to be verified if using a pen name. But Amazon's FAQ says that all documents are deleted after verification and that authors can continue to use a pen name or pseudonym as their author name, according to KDP terms and conditions, as long as their legal name or business entity has been verified. I saw a lot of people worried about this one when it came out, but look, it's hard because authors use pen names, they use pseudonyms. You also know who uses pseudonyms? Scammers. And so Amazon does have to be careful with these sorts of things because we don't want Amazon to have to do something harsher that then impacts authors more. But they do need some level of security here. Leslye, what did you think when you saw this going around the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I understand the fears and, trusting Amazon can be difficult. Like we trust them on certain levels. They're a big corporation. Many big corporations have been hacked and our personal information is out there. So is it any different than, when all of these other companies get hacked and, I get a dozen spam texts a day because someone has hacked me at some point. So it kind of, it's not great. Anytime that something changes in this way, especially, there's going to be an uproar. And there are reasons for concern, but the scammers affect us all every day. And so if there's a possibility that this will help, then, I guess it's just one of those changes that we have to see if it actually does anything.
Yeah, this feels like a soft glove approach by them to try to counter the scammers because obviously scammers can't provide a real ID. And so this, I think, will have a net positive, but if people resist it and then it doesn't lead to people actually getting verified and there's a lot of uproar, Amazon will have to do something harsher, which will mean good people, real people actually get dinged and get their accounts removed, which we definitely do not want.
Right. We try to minimize that as much as possible because that happens now, and or just, people have their accounts and have no idea why. If they had better customer service for these types of things, I think people would be more comfortable. Like if you don't get verified for some reason and you knew there was a way that you could email a human being and get a response back, then I think that would help a lot.
Preaching to the choir, for sure. They absolutely need better support when people lose their account. It's ridiculous. Hot potato wisdom question for you, Leslye. Do you think Amazon's verification process will have a noticeable impact on scammers and bad actors?
I think there might be a dip. I mean, I think scammers are the most innovative people on the planet and they find ways around everything. And you kind of already have to put in certain information for tax purposes that, at least in the US, I'm not sure how it works in other countries. So they have a level of information about you in order to do the tax stuff. So I think that if Amazon is putting any resources behind this, they know that it will have some kind of effect, maybe even a PR effect. But I think that eventually any effect it has will probably be balanced out by some new way that people find to scam.
I think you might be right.
So Brian, what should an author do if they're worried about sharing their true identity as part of this verification process?
Look, it's tough. I know, but we need to be a real business. We need to be real businesses. Real businesses have to get verified. Real businesses need a doing business as or an LLC or my favorite, LLC with an S corp designation because it's beneficial for taxation purposes. I'm not an accountant, so don't necessarily do what I say there. But there are things you eventually have to do as a business. I was talking to an author, great author. I coach this author, and I found out, despite the fact that they make more money than 99.9% of the author community, they are filed on a separate line item on an existing business. And I'm like, okay, let's get you more legitimate here, because that's the thing. You are gonna have to do certain things. I've had to give my EIN number to a bunch of places, to a bunch of things in order to get verified for stuff. And eventually, you will need to be a real deal EIN number business in order to get the best possible long-term benefits of being a business.
True, yeah. And I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, so I've had many LLCs over the years. And yeah, treating it like a business. I started out as a business with an LLC before I ever published my first book, knowing that that's what I wanted to do. And, you know, a lot of people get into it later, but I think it's absolutely vital to treat it as a real business. Because, you know, once you start making money, you don't want any of these kind of weird things happening. You don't want to get audited. You don't want anything negative happening with the government and the taxes and all that. So take it seriously.
Yeah. No, great points. Great points, Leslye. We're moving into the lightning round. You get a second chance to make a lightning sound, Leslye. I'm ready for you.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that. That was really good for various reasons that I won't get into. Awesome. Leslye. So, you recently wrote on your blog that 2025 is going to be a year of no. Why should authors consider adding no to their vocabulary?
Yes, no is a powerful word. No frees you up. So I say yes a lot, and I enjoy the things that I do, but I overbooked myself completely. And so I'm excited for the experiences, but I'm pre-tired. And so when you don't say no enough, I mean, every yes has a cost, I think, that can be hidden. So as someone who's writing and running another business, it is just, you know, this only take an hour. This will only be a little bit. This is only a trip up here quickly. You know, it's like, oh yeah, sure. And then you find yourself completely packed. You can't focus on the things you want to focus on as much as you need to, I think. So maybe there's a balance to be had. There's seasons of yes and seasons of no. I've been in a season of yes. I'm entering a season of no. Yeah. And as long as I strike that balance, I think it'll open up much more mental clarity. It'll open up just mental space for doing nothing sometimes, which can be difficult when you are overscheduled. Yeah, I think it helps your creativity. I think it helps your just self-care overall to have a lot more breathing room. And then you can go back into a season of yes and do all the things and maybe do them better.
I love that. I feel like Claire told me this once. Hold the space. You don't have to fill it. It's okay to hold the space.
Yeah. That's a great sentiment. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm ready for my question.
Okay, so it's coming up on time to plan for those winter and fall holidays. What fun holiday-related things have you seen authors do to promote their work?
Oh, I always see people doing their discount promos. Everyone's doing their multi-thing, like their pumpkin spice promo or their Christmas promo. So look, have fun with those. I don't think those move the needle in a significant way, personally. But you should have fun with it. And remember, as we were talking about earlier, we need to bring the joy in. Let me talk to you Christmas novel people. So first and foremost, I think it's okay for your Christmas novel to exist outside of your series, because it can kind of mess things up if people have to read a Christmas book in April because they just finished book 3. So it's okay for things to exist outside of your series. Or, as one author I recently worked with, put it into its own separate Christmas series that you sell on Christmas, which I think is a brilliant thing to do. But look, y'all, these folks tend to see sales start in November for those Christmas books. So at the end of October, get those ads going, get the Amazon ads going, get the Facebook ads going, whatever you have to do. Start pumping up those Christmas books so that they're a high enough rank by the time people are in full swing to buy, and then you'll have the full visibility so that people can go and buy your jingle fun books.
And it's starting earlier and earlier. So people are seeing a lot of Christmas sales in October, and I think it probably will continue as a trend in the years to come.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. So, Leslye, you've talked about having non negotiables in a story that make you excited about the story in the first place. Why is it important to set these ideas out on paper?
Yeah, these are things I go back to, especially when I'm doing revisions. But setting them out helps. A lot of the things I do are to help me when I get stuck, because I know I'm going to get stuck. Every single book I've written, I've gotten stuck generally in the middle, sometimes again towards the end. And when I can go back to look at a list of the things that made me want to write this book in the first place, it helps to calm me down when I'm stuck and like, okay, I can figure this out. And this is why I'm writing the story. So similarly to like having a vision statement at the beginning of your book, which is something I also advocate for, like before you start, like what is your dream for what this book could be story wise? What is the thing you want to say? What do you want readers to say? And then also, why are you excited? Why are you going to spend the next few weeks, months, years, however long it takes you to write a book on this thing? And so part of it is like figuring out how readers will react to it, but part of it is just for you. Like this is a thing you're going to put some time and effort into and some of your heart and soul as a writer. And so those non-negotiables are just a couple of things, usually 2 or 3 things. Maybe it's a scene that I want to get to. Like the reason I'm writing this book is so I can get to that scene. Or maybe it's the feeling I want to elicit in my readers. One of those things, having it there for when you get stuck, for when writing gets really tough and you're like, why am I doing this with my life? Why don't I go back and do something else? I found that it's helpful. And people that I've worked with have found that it's helpful too.
I love this idea of just planning ahead for when you might get stuck, having some things just in your back pocket. And look, purpose provides energy. So if you
Yeah.
have purpose and several purposeful moments you're looking to get to in a story, and you just have that front and center, it can't help but be the carrot on the stick that pulls you forward a little bit.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That is awesome. All right, I'm ready for mine.
Okay. So do you think there are certain non-negotiables that authors should consider when it comes to their work-life balance?
Look, we're all going to be in those seasons of yes from time to time where we have overbooked ourselves and we have learned, okay, that was too far. That's going to happen. But once those things do happen, how do we prevent ourselves from getting overloaded 2 years later? We have to make notes. We have to write it down. We have to remember how we felt. We have to make that effort because I remember there have been things where I said never again, only to do them again,
Yes. Oh
over and
no.
over. And so when you have your never, it's like, that night you drink too much and then you're like, never again. And then like 2 weeks later. Um, so you have to remember these things. You have to write them down. You have to talk to a friend about them. You have to get your friend to talk you out of them next time. And so everyone's non negotiables are going to be different, but you need to actually write them down and say, what are my never agains so that I may never make this mistake twice?
And having that accountability partner, that friend that's going to be like,
Mhm.
hey, remember last year when you said, don't let me do this? You're doing it. And you're like, oh, thank you. That happens to me all
Mhm.
the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Last question here, Leslye. How do you craft your habits, also known as sacred rituals, to write and then edit your books?
This is something that's been evolving over time, and I've
Mm.
gotten to a place where it's very comfortable that I've been for a couple of years now, and it does involve other people. Having writer friends, accountability partners has been crucial to me being able to do this regularly. So I get uh, online with Hangouts, Google Hangouts every morning, Monday through Thursday, with several writer friends, and we write from 8 a.m. till 11 or 12, and that is a ritual that like I know Inez Johnson, who's been a co-host of the Somewhere Book Show. She is one of my very best friends and someone who is very reliable. One of Clifton's strengths, I think discipline is her
Mhm.
number one.
Mhm.
So she's going to be there every day. Having the community is part of my ritual. Writing in the morning is part of my ritual. Having a cup of tea is part of my writing ritual. Like, that's something simple that I can do when I'm on the road or whether I'm home. And yeah, knowing these things and practicing, I've done tests to see, do I write more in the morning or the evening? Morning, definitely get more words in the same period of time. So let's do it in the mornings. Let's be more efficient. trial and error, practice, and incorporating community whenever possible have been vital to me for my habits and rituals.
Ah, that's so great. And I just love this image of you and Inez and friends all writing in the room for 4 hours. I think
Yeah.
that's great. And I'm a big advocate of body doubling, or whatever you're going to call it, where you
Mm-hmm.
get to do the same thing in a room with other people, even if it's online. It
Yeah,
can make a huge difference.
absolutely.
Awesome. Leslye, great answers. We need a question of the week here for episode 550. What do you want to ask the listeners today?
I think what has been the habit or the sacred ritual that has been the most important in your writing process so far?
I like that. Most important in your writing process. What has been the habit or sacred ritual that has been the most important in your writing process? Great question. Folks, you can answer it over at sellmorebookshow.com or the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. You can go. Look, just get all these resources. Get these things that an amazing, successful author has used for her and for her students. myimaginaryfriends.net/resources. Leslye, your time has come at the end of these 2 episodes. It's been a delight. Do you have any final parting words you would like to leave authors who might be struggling getting this next book done? They have gotten stuck. What is it you can leave them with that they can take with them?
I think thinking about it as a reader also can be helpful for getting out of your head. We know what we're trying to do as writers, and if you're a craft junkie like me, you've read all the books and you have a bunch of courses. But it's like at the end of the day, we're writing for readers. And so take a step back, maybe take a day or two away from your writing desk and try to come at the story as like, what would my readers love? What would I love as a reader, as opposed to just a writer? That can be a good way to change your brain and to think of things in a new way.
I really like that. Thank you for the
Thanks.
wise words. Very appreciated. Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time these last 2 weeks to join us, and I hope some people go check out My Imaginary Friends, your podcast. But thank you again for your time here today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. It's been amazing to be here. I love the show and I really appreciate being here.
Yay! Good. Likewise. Awesome, folks. We'll be back for the next episode with another wonderful guest co-host. So for Leslye, I'm Brian. Have a great week of book selling, everybody, and we will be back next week for episode 551. Bye, everyone.